You've just started shooting film and you're so excited, so you join like 5 Facebook groups to help you learn faster. And you really want those soft, creamy pastels, but you're not sure how to get them, and you're confused by all these new terms you're hearing like rating, bulb in, 45 degrees. What the heck does all of that mean? So today I'm going over 3 ways that you guys can use your light meter to overexpose your color film. This is Bite-Sized Business, where we're helping entrepreneurs become the hero of their own creative small business. I'm your host, Abby Grace. I am an international photographer who also loves educating for creative small business owners. So here on Bite-Sized Business, we do a lot of strategy for creative entrepreneurs, as well as tips and tricks for growing photographers. So if that sounds like your brand of strawberry jam, make sure you guys hit subscribe. I'll start off by saying this. I know that every photographer has their own variety of what they want their film to look like. But I also know after 6 years of shooting film that color film, most stocks of color film, do really well when they're overexposed. And I also know that I wasted hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars in my first couple of years by underexposing rolls and not realizing what was happening until I got my film back from the lab and was disappointed with muddy, lackluster results. So this video is everything that I've learned over the last 6 years in terms of overexposing using your light meter, not any kind of chemical manipulation process like pushing or pulling. I will also say that there are a number of ways to overexpose your color film in camera. You know, some folks prefer to take a standard light meter reading and then do the math in their head. I personally prefer to manipulate the way that I use my light meter so that the exact shutter speed reading that I get on my light meter is the one that goes into my camera, just to eliminate any possibility for error. So that being said, let's dive in. Method number 1 is what we call rating your film. So the first term that we need to define is called box speed. And what box speed is the ISO that a manufacturer intends a film speed to be shot at. Typically that number is associated with the name of the film. So for example, Ilford Delta 3200 is a 3200 speed black and white film. Portra 800, it's an 800 speed color film, and so on and so forth. But here's the thing about box speed. A lot of basic color films are super light hungry, which means they need more light than is intended if you were to shoot at box speed. So if you were to take Portra 800 and tell your light meter to measure for an 800 speed film, you're gonna get really muddy colors because Portra 800 actually behaves more like a 400 or a 640 speed film. So rating your film for overexposure simply means telling your light meter to measure for a film that has a lower ISO than the actual box speed of what you're shooting with. So a good rule of thumb for most basic color films, and when I say basic color film, I mean Portra 160, Portra 400, Portra 800, and Fuji 400H. A good rule of thumb with those is to tell your light meter to account for an ISO that is about half of the box speed. So for Fuji 400H, I tell my light meter to measure for ISO 200. For Portra 800, I'll shoot that at anywhere from 400 ISO to 640 ISO. Because by doing that, what we're telling our light meter is that this film is not quite as sensitive, so we need a slower shutter speed to let in more light to account for that light-hungry film. Method number 2, retract the bulb. So when you use your bulb to take a light meter reading, it's also called an incident reading. And what an incident reading measures for is the amount of light that's falling on a subject or falling on your scene. And it takes all of that light, averages it together, and takes a reading for about the middle point. So when you've got your bulb out, and this bulb is also called a lumisphere, when you've got the bulb out like this, it's measuring 180 degrees around. Whereas when you retract the bulb, less of that bulb is available to take a light meter reading, meaning you're not picking up any unwanted reflections. And by doing so, it introduces 1/2 stop of overexposure. Method number 3, the angle in which you hold your light meter. So typically when I'm taking a light meter reading, I hold my light meter up about 12 inches from the face of my subject, about 90 degrees from the ground. You can also angle that light meter forward and take another reading at 45 degrees, which introduces another 2/3 to 1 full stop of overexposure. Think about it. If you've got light shining on your subject, let's just pretend I'm in full sun, and then I angle my light meter forward like this, it's no longer getting those direct rays from the sun. It's picking up some light that's filtering through, but also some light that's reflecting off the ground, which means that it's not going to expose for as fast of a shutter speed as it would if it was in full sun. So by tilting your light meter forward at 45 degrees, you're introducing, again, another 2/3 to 1 full stop of overexposure. You can use one of these methods, combine two of them. Heck, you can even use all three at one time. I've done all of those and more. But guys, the best way for you to figure out how you personally prefer to meter your film for overexposure is just to get out and shoot. Go photograph your husband, photograph your dog, your kid brother, your neighbor, whoever, I don't care. Just go out and put some rolls through your camera. Or better yet, go out and shoot a roll of bracketed frames. See, what bracketed frames are is photographing the same subject in the same light for multiple exposures using different metering techniques. So maybe I'm photographing my husband under a tree at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and he's always in the same shade and he doesn't move. Maybe frame 1 is photographed at 45 degrees, frame 2 is at 90 degrees. Frame 3 is bulb in, frame 4 is bulb out, and so on and so forth. And as you're shooting, you're taking detailed notes exactly how you're metering each frame, so that when you get that film back from the lab, you can take a look, figure out which exposures look the way that you want them to, ways that you would want to replicate in the future, and based on your notes, you know exactly how you metered, so you can do that again with future rolls. That's all I've got for you guys today. As always, if you like this episode, make sure you hit like and then definitely subscribe, because there is so much more goodness where this came from. We'll catch you guys next time on Bite Size Business.